For a good part of the day, we've been dealing with blackface and race relations stemming from an incident last night when two students from Walt Whitman Senior High School were caught on social media in blackface, even using the N-word in the post. To continue the coverage of the story, I'm pleased to be joined by a former president of the Montgomery County School Board and a former high school principal, not just in Montgomery County, at Springbrook, but Wilson Senior High School in D.C., Michael Durso. Mike, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Your reaction, what do you make of what you've seen here and what's been done?
Well, I think first, when something like this happens, people would say, oh no, or not again, or I wish it didn't happen. Well, it did happen. You mentioned that they were caught. And that's important too, because there are a lot of situations where individuals are not caught. We can't turn the clock back. We can't change the fact that this happened. And so in a roundabout way, it may be a blessing in disguise to force us, not only those in schools, parents, community people, to address these situations. And if students aren't aware of the severity of their actions, then they really need to be.
Yeah, well, one of the things that really touches me, and let's throw up the stats right now of what's happening in Montgomery County schools, because the population has changed. What makes up the student body at Walt Whitman is not indicative of the Montgomery County school system. Hispanics are now the largest student body, 31.3%. White students only 27.7%. And I say only because white students are accustomed to being the majority. You're no longer the majority. Black, African American, 21.6%. Asian students, 14%. Two or more races, biracial, and whatever else you want to put in there, 4.9%. Mike, I bring that up because change has come to Montgomery County schools, and I'm willing to bet that it's not just Walt Whitman. Other things are happening when kids are running into other kids and their cultural differences. Tell me.
It's not just with the students. One could argue that sometimes the students handle some of these situations and might even be a little more resilient than adults. The landscape, as you pointed out, has changed considerably within our teaching force, within staff, and it just cries out for a more openness and willing to discuss these situations.
I'm going to guess there's also more competition now in the school system. The majority white population is probably seeing more competition for some of the coveted slots.
No, absolutely. Although it's interesting when you mention all those different percentages of the school, and each school, we have 205, each school has those numbers. I can remember many times where parents and teachers, whatever, would want to know what the makeup of the school was. I was never asked that by a student. Right. So I think we need to maybe assume a little bit more on their part. Certainly what happened at Whitman should not have, and it needs to be dealt with. But I think we need to be upfront about what's going on and not just assume it's going to go away, because our mission is far more than academic.
Yeah, let's make this the beginning of fixing the situation. I mean, kids, if they don't know about blackface, teach them. If they don't know about the N-word, teach them why this hurts so much. Mike Durso, as usual, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.